Moving on, we're going from the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the old Fox Marvel Universe to DC and Warner Brothers. We have to talk about Superman Legacy. There was a slew of castings that came out. A couple weeks ago, we got David Cornsweet cast officially as our next Clark Kent and Superman. Then we had Rachel Brosnahan cast as our next Lois Lane for James Gunn's debut film in the DC universe. We also got a bunch of other heroes that will be appearing in Superman Legacy. Is it your typical Batman, Wonder Woman, high-profile superheroes? No. This is exactly kind of what you expect from a James Gunn debut film. You're going to get a Green Lantern. But it's not going to be Hal Jordan. It's not going to be John Stewart in this film. We're going to get Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, a frequent collaborator with James Gunn, Nathan Fillion, that is. Guy Gardner, pretty much known as the third or forgotten Green Lantern. We also have Isabella Merced playing Hawkgirl. We just had Hawkman and Black Adam. We don't know if there's going to be any connection or carryover with the character played by Aldous Hodge, but we're going to get Hawkgirl in Superman Legacy. We're also going to get Ed Gaethje as Mr. Terrific. Mr. Terrific, long-rumored character that was going to be appearing in the DC universe, going to be in Superman Legacy. Then Anthony Kerrigan, shout out Barry, shout out NoHo Hank, shout out 50-50 for Cristobal, playing this character known as Metamorpho. Ricky Flex, your reactions to these actors and these characters coming into this world that James Gunn has built?
I trust James Gunn. I can't say I was happy when I saw all these because I want to see a Superman movie and with Lois, right? But the James Gunn quote that came after it for basically responding to me and people like me, saying that, quote, I've never used one movie to set up another movie. The characters are there because they help to tell Superman's story, not so he can set up separate projects in the franchise. Superman and Lois are the very clear protagonists. So he's being clear, very clear. And I think it makes sense when you look at it, like these individual people, right? Guy Gardner, he's the third Green Lantern. And when you cast Nathan Fillion, he ain't starring in crap, right? Like, hey, he's James Gunn, another quote saying he's going to give Nate Fillion a bowl cut here. And that's his primary reason for casting him, right? So, obviously, Nathan Fillion, big collaborator with James Gunn, was in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, was in Slither, the Suicide Squad. So, obviously, a friend of his. Also, he voiced Hal Jordan in multiple animated features. So, there's a clear Green Lantern connection there. But he's that guy in a lot of movies. You know, he recognized him, but like he's not going to be a helm of a Green Lantern movie. We have the Green Lantern Lanterns television show coming with HBO. It's a true detective type story with Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, and that will connect to the DCU. So those will be the bigger castings. And again, these other Hawkgirl, again, Eda Mercer, not in a lot. She's Dora. She was in Day of the Soldado.
That's crazy.
Like not
Dora cast as a superhero.
Yeah. So not big. And you know what I'm saying? Like Anthony Kerrigan, I think Metamorpho is probably one of the most underrated superheroes that we have, at least on ability wise. But again, Anthony Kerrigan, just a great supporting character. So I think this cast coming together is just, these are all supporting characters, and the actual heroes are all supporting type of heroes. So they can't be in it too much, but they're all going to support Superman as he goes through like his, I don't know, puberty Superman stage, you know?
Yeah. So I want to analyze a couple of these quotes given out by James Gunn. And this is why I like having James Gunn as the head of this universe, because he communicates frequently with the fans via Twitter and now via Threads on Instagram. But when he says that these characters are strategically picked to help build the story of Superman and Lois Lane, I'm calling bullshit. on that. How is Metamorpho going to build the character of Clark Kent? And you might say, look at what he did with the characters in the Guardians of the Galaxy. But I would argue no one knew any of those characters. You're dealing with Superman here. There's enough source material where you don't have to include all of these heroes. However, he then said in another quote that these characters are in this film as well because this is an established superhero world. This is not a world that is foreign to superheroes. These people exist, right? So to have superheroes exist, okay, you can include a couple. To have these characters relatively unknown, none of them having ever been on the big screen or gotten the big screen treatment before, I think it's exciting. The castings are very interesting. The castings are so interesting because like Nathan Fillion, that goes with James Gunn, kind of like the trope that he has where he's going to just cast his friends. You know, it almost felt like a makeup a little bit because he didn't have a strong role in either the Suicide Squad or Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, but he was a scene stealer in both of those films. And it seemed like almost like a promise that he had to fulfill for his friend. And I'm going to make you a Green Lantern. That's the vibe I'm getting from it. And the fact that he can like be this asshole Green Lantern, because that's what Guy Gardner is. Traditionally, you think of him as like a young brat, but now he's going to just be an old asshole with a bowl cut. I think Nathan Fillion would actually kill that role. The other characters here, like Ed Gaethje as Mr. Terrific and Anthony Kerrigan specifically, they don't look like superheroes. You know, they're going to put on some muscle. But what I like about these castings, it's more about can they channel the character? Like, and I think James Gunn sees something right from these actors that he sees and makes them perfect fit. Almost like David Cornsweet isn't as big and jacked as like what Henry Cavill eventually became, but does he inhabit the spirit of the character? That's the most important thing because we know these actors can get as jacked as they want. You know, I can't wait to see Anthony Kerrigan just absolutely yoked up as Metamorpho if he does that. That would be hilarious. And he's actually in pretty good shape.
Yeah, I was going to say he's already in pretty good shape. Metamorpho is such an interesting character because he's a former Marine and he's friends, like in the Marine Corps, with Jon Stewart. So it's a very weird situation that might play an effect. And that tells me that this won't be the first and only time. This won't be the only time Anthony Kerrigan as Metamorpho will be in the DCU. And again, like Metamorpho is a sick character. He can alter shapes. He could shapeshift. He's
like a cyborg / mummy.
He could be a liquid, gas, metallic element. Like he is another nickname for him is the Elemental Man. He's basically like you can't hurt him because he's so durable. You know, he has super strength. Obviously, not Superman's strength. He could also turn into kryptonite, which might play a factor in this movie. He's basically invulnerable. So it's a very interesting twist to a Superman who is invulnerable himself, except to kryptonite, and he also is invulnerable, except not as powerful, but can turn into kryptonite. It's just going to be interesting to see. All right, obviously he's got to be comic relief, and him, Nathan Fillion is comic relief. So then Eddie Gaethje as Mr. Terrific. Again, that character is not funny. He's like a former decathlon guy, so he doesn't have like super strength, but like super strength to normal humans.
The same build as like Superman, I mean.
Yeah. And he's the third smartest man on Earth behind Lex Luthor and Bruce Wayne. And he's just so smart. He has like nanotechnology on his suit. And like all in all, like he has a sad story. Like he tried to commit suicide multiple times. Like that is the exact opposite of an Anthony Kerrigan or a Nathan Fillion type of character. So it's going to be interesting, this whole crew shaping up together around Superman.
And I have a hard time seeing many of these characters, aside from maybe Mr. Terrific, because it's somewhat of a notable name, like getting their own project or series down the line. Who knows? But I love the casting for Ed Gaethje, primarily because there's some meta aspect to it after X-Men First Class. And he's become this superhero meme that has lived in infamy with him dying in First Class when he's supposed to be the indestructible man and then him internally combusting. So I love how James Gunn's like, hey, you got done dirty, buddy. And I know you're a talented guy. Let's give you another chance. And you get to play probably out of these supporting characters, the most notable one, right? The one that we could see having a future in this franchise. Hawkgirl, interesting because it's not Hawkman. You're wondering about that connection, like I said, from Black Adam. James Gunn did say there is going to be a carryover of a select handful of characters from the DCEU or whatever stands at the DC universe right now. I don't know if they're going to carry over Hawkman. What we know is being carried over is Blue Beetle officially being carried over, whether you like it or not, Ricky Flex. and whether you like it or not, Dr. O. But we also have
Speak for yourself first.
He must be referring mostly to the Peacemaker universe and the Peacemaker like little scope, like small scope of a world that exists. I don't know if Hawkman's a part of that, but isn't that what you kind of assume by that comment? Peacemaker world and Blue Beetle?
Yeah, I think so. And then maybe, I don't know. Yeah, like Waller obviously has her own television series. That's the Peacemaker
Maybe a couple
world.
Suicide Squad characters.
Yeah, I think just that whole area. But besides that, like, I don't see that same Hawkman coming back. Like, I could see it, I guess, but I just think
it feels like they're just like, we've moved on. We're going to the other one.
Yeah, if you said Henry Cavill is coming back, but then back out on that, that tells me if you've appeared in a DCEU movie, you're not appearing here.
Yeah. And like Blue Beetle's interesting because like there's a new trailer that came out. It didn't make the trailer roundup this week, but I did want to talk about it a little bit just because like James Gunn confirming it's going, like he's a part of the DC universe. I'm not excited at all for this movie. And it made me think that James Gunn didn't want to put Blue Beetle in this film, but he was doing Warner in his universe, but he was doing Warner Brothers a favor by helping promote the movie by saying it's a part of the DCU, because what they've noticed from the past DCEU releases, notably The Flash, because it doesn't have that connectivity, maybe that leads to lackluster box office results. Do you think he did him a favor a little bit?
He should not be doing any favors. His job is to rebuild DC, and he cannot be doing favors for the old DC, because the whole point is to shift away from that. And it does feel like that. It's got to be just because I just can't see this movie being that good. I can't. But I will give this actor credit that maybe he's just a good Blue Beetle. Maybe he's good relative to the comics, right? We've mentioned that it kind of looks kind of sick, like the powers, right? He has the big sword, the protective shield that kind of like cuts through that bus. Like there's some powers here that you could take with you. But just overall, this movie just does not look like it's it. And I am also not excited for it. Depending on what I read, I might not even see it the first weekend.
No. Only if it's like must see and like the critics come in and they're raving about it. But it's not prioritized superhero viewing. It's just not. And with The Flash barely making over like $120 million at the domestic box office, and that's a movie with a big name DC hero that has Michael Keaton returning as Batman, has Ben Affleck as Batman in the film, and it's promoted as such. And if that movie fails, like, what do you think Blue Beetle's going to do? Right? But now you said it's a part of the DCU. Maybe you think it could have a connection. I really don't think it will. But it also makes me think about Aquaman 2. Aquaman 2 made $1 billion. The first Aquaman made $1 billion, right? Based on like the recent performances of DC movies, I think you're potentially going to see the largest disparity between an origin movie or a first movie in a franchise and a sequel ever. I think we could be looking at $1 billion movie compared to like a $200 million movie, an $800 million drop off. I really mean that.
Yeah, it all depends. I really have no idea what's going on with Aquaman 2. I have no idea. There's no set photos. We got that one picture of him in the black suit, and that's it. We honestly have no idea what's going on. And usually I would say I love that. But for the old DCEU, what's going on with DC, that just tells me I already don't trust them. Now I really don't trust this project. I really don't. It makes me really nervous. Mm-hmm. More nervous than, I won't say Shazam, but then a Black Adam, I'll say.
You're really testing the power of Jason Momoa for Aquaman 2. You're really testing how big of a star.
I'll give him credit. Fast X helped.
I think it did too. But right now, would you say Aquaman 2 makes more money than The Flash? I'm gonna say yes. I think Aquaman 2 actually makes more money than The Flash. I may not think it's a better movie, but I think it makes more money at the box office.
Worldwide, I say yes.
Globally.
Yeah, worldwide, I'll say yes. I think Jason Momoa is a big global star versus Ezra Miller, even a Michael Keaton, not as big globally. Like, I think Momoa will put this movie on his back for the box office and, at least make an attempt to make its money back.
And as we wrap up, noticeably, no Lex Luthor cast for Superman Legacy. They wanted to make sure they got these castings in before the strike, right, from the actors. So July 11th, 2025, this movie comes out in theaters. It looks like we're not going to know Lex Luthor for a long time.
Let the anticipation build.
Let it build.